Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to Conversations with My Higher Self. How are you today? Today, we're going to be talking about heart disease. Specifically, I wanted to walk you through some of the spiritual reasons, if you will, for heart disease. Where does it come from? Something that ends up being a cause of a lot of death on planet Earth actually starts very far from the physical. Once you get to the physical symptoms, that is almost like the last layer of defense. That is your last frontier. So today we're going to talk about the reasons, energetic reasons, spiritual reasons, sometimes karmic reasons for why you would manifest heart disease in your body and how to hopefully prevent this from happening. So that's the intention for today. Before we dive in, just a couple of housekeeping items. I invite you to come meditate with me on our Sacred Universe podcast. It is a heart-filled space. I do my best to upload meditations there every week, and it is a very healing space, right? And since today's episode is all about healing, what better way to follow through and follow up on the healing intention from today than to go and do some heart meditations on our Sacred Universe podcast. Secondarily, if you have been curious about my book, just a quick reminder, my book is called 72 Keys to Manifestation, or An Ancient Path of a Modern Day Alchemist. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Audible and Kindle globally. And that book is all about manifestation, hence the title, but it is actually a lot deeper than your traditional manifestation books. It has 72 keys on how you can unlock this practice for your day-to-day life, how you can manifest things big and small, and how you can really make massive shifts for your life, in your life for the better, as well as it's actually a very spiritual book, right? So there are many byproducts of going through the journey of 72 keys. One of them is being a lot more in tune with the energies and becoming a lot more spiritual and spiritually aligned, as well as, experiencing abundance in all facets of your life. So that's that book. Alrighty, my darlings, why don't we dive in? Because the topic is charged. It's a dense topic. It is an important topic. I started doing, these deep dives into the different facets of our physical body. I made an episode about teeth that was extremely well received. So thank you for all the feedback. And I figured today we're going to continue that series and start talking about the physical body. Something that perhaps I don't talk about quite as often. Everything as a human being, right? There's more to you than meets the eye. You are a layered being. You are a layered cake almost, from the energetic perspective. There are many different facets of you, and the physical layer is just one layer. It is the layer that you perhaps most associate yourself with. However, a lot of the things that get manifested in the physical start way before that you even get a whiff of any of the symptomology on the physical side, right? They start way early. Some of the precursors to heart disease are actually past life stuff. And today, I hope I could shed some light on heart disease, different heart ailments. Where do they come from? Why humanity experiences them to such a degree? And I think that this episode is going to be a little bit of like hindsight is 2020, where some of the stuff that I'm going to say is so obvious and almost so readily available for humanity to receive, understand, and comprehend. And yet, sometimes the things that are so much on the surface are the things that are the hardest to see. And I think this episode is certainly going to be a testament to that. So heart disease. Heart disease is the leading cause of death globally. And that is the unfortunate truth. I'm here to tell you that this fact is not going away anytime soon, despite the fact that humanity is going to keep progressing in the medical field. There's a lot of research around, heart conditions. There's a lot of money being poured right now into this research. There are obviously a lot of large pharmaceutical companies that are working on all kinds of medications. In other words, this is going to be a field where a lot of investment is going to keep happening in the coming decades. But you would notice that the amount of deaths from heart disease is not going anywhere. This is going to be an issue somewhat unsolved for humanity. So if you yourself are experiencing heart issues or somebody in your family is, I hope that this episode can serve as a little bit of an expanded perspective into this topic. And just to give you a disclaimer, right? Obviously, this is a podcast about spirituality. I'm not here to give medical advice. So if you're looking for that, perhaps you should look elsewhere. However, if you're looking for ways and like a perspective, something like if you're seeking answers and would like to get to the bottom of this, let's do it today. If you have been following me for some time, you know that I preach a lot the fact that humanity needs to open their hearts. It is probably one of the most common statements that I make, right? That it is time for humanity, the next frontier for humanity is to open up our hearts. If we needed a reason, or if we needed proof that this was a big issue, all we had to look at, or like the heart is a big issue for humanity, all we had to do was look at the fact that indeed it is the number one leading like cause of death globally. We know based on just that statistic, this is a pain point for humanity. Our heart space is a pain point. And by trying to understand why that is, hopefully we can start getting closer to the solution. When we think about a species, no matter what species that is, and humanity is certainly one such species, there is such a concept as assemblage point. This is not an episode on assemblage point. You can find an entire podcast on the assemblage point at some point, no pun intended, in the past. An assemblage point is essentially your overall vibration, like a point of view. So humanity has a collective point of view. Right now, humanity overall, as a general rule, as a collective, vibrates at the level of the solar plexus chakra at our yellow, which is our center of achievement, which is our center of, it's a masculine center, so masculine forward. It's our center of identity. It's our center of self. So there's a lot of selfishness over here, right? Like my way or the highway. Individuality, it's our center of self-concept. This is our center of ego, all of these things, right? Now, of course, solar plexus is a beautiful center because it also connects us to a lot of wonderful things in life, such as personal power, confidence, etc., etc. However, this is where humanity is in general. Usually when you are watching an evolution of species, it is, the species starts essentially when the species is first birthed, it starts vibrating at the root chakra level. So the very first chakra located at the base of your spine, which kind of represents your survival instincts, etc., etc. That is where the species starts vibrating at. And then over time, in the process of evolution, what ends up happening is you evolve and you move up that ladder, that chakra ladder, if you will, right? So over time, humanity moved from vibrating at the root center, then we went to the sacral, and now we're essentially at the solar plexus. The next big frontier for humanity is to start vibrating at the heart center. Big picture, that is precisely the reason why heart disease is the number one condition that causes death in humanity, is because that is where the entire collective energy is pointing humanity towards. It is such a big issue that it's almost like all the roads lead to Rome, if you know what I mean. Like every single angle is pointing, every single arrow is pointing in the same direction. And that direction is, hey, pay attention to the heart. Pay attention to the heart. Why is the heart so sick, humanity? It's time to look here. Like this is the issue to solve, right? That is why so many people get sick. That is why so many people get sick out of nowhere. Heart strokes and, heart disease sometimes gets you out of nowhere. Yes, there are sometimes precursors such as like high blood pressure and all of these other things, but very often it just hits you out of nowhere. You just have a stroke and that's it. Part of the reason why is because at that point, your body is so congested, like your heart is so congested that that's it. Like the flow of blood is cut off. There is nothing that could happen at that point. It's already too late. So before we get to the point where it's too late, let's start talking about how can we get out of this predicament. The number one thing that heart disease and how widespread that is, how big of an issue that is for humanity, the number one kind of message from here is, hey, humanity, you must pay attention to your heart. What is going on here? Why are so many people dying? What is the lesson, right? So that is the message. Let's start maybe peeling off the layers a little bit and trying to understand this reason, disease or the symptomology a little bit holistically. A little bit further down the road during this podcast, we're going to talk about how heart disease manifests differently for men and women, meaning there are some similarities around, why you would develop a heart condition across genders. And then there are certain things that are specific to each gender. And we're going to go into both actually, right? So I'm going to give you the big picture overall. idea. And then we're going to go into specifics by gender, because that at least allows you to start getting closer to the answer. If you're thinking about a particular person, or if you're thinking about yourself, you may start getting answers faster. But I have to go from the broad to the more specific, because obviously I don't have the ability to diagnose every single one of you that may at one point come across a heart issue, right? So I have to overgeneralize here in order to be the most helpful that I can be. Okay, heart disease. When I say that hearts of humanity are not open, what I mean by that is that is not usually, as a general rule, that is not where the energy flows in the human body quite naturally. That is what it is, right? At the next frontier for humanity, if we meet up a few thousand years down the road, human hearts are going to be open, and that's not going to be a problem. And then there's going to be probably the next stage of evolution for humanity, right? It would be like, okay, like we've passed the lesson of the heart, let's move to the throat. And that's going to be all kinds of issues around self-expression and, your thyroid and all kinds of other things. I just need to illustrate, right? But we're in the area of the heart. So the hearts in general for humanity, if I were to diagnose the heart instead, so like a healthy heart energetically is a heart that enables flow. And flow is the give and the take, right? So a healthy heart is able to receive of the energies of the emotional spectrum, as well as give the energies of the emotional spectrum really easily. So that exchange of energy, that flow is constant, it is effortless, it is clean, it is optimized. So that is what a healthy heart would look like. So it's almost like a sphere. A healthy heart energetically would be a sphere that is always sifting through water. And that's probably like, so essentially there's like water is entering it and water is exiting it. That's like the healthy heart energetically. The heart of humanity right now resembles a walnut, probably is the best way to describe it, with like a thick shell. Have you guys seen walnuts that are still in their shells? Like in, how they grow in nature? There's this like thick shell that surrounds the actual nut. That is what humanity's hearts kind of look like. So there's this thick protective shell surrounding humanity's hearts. And when I saying that, again, it's an overgeneralization. I'm looking at the collective level. Most likely though, you individually listening to this episode, there is some version of this shell, like you have your own thickness of the walls, but most likely as a general rule, you have a little bit of that symptom, if not a lot of that symptom yourself, right? Now, it would vary person to person, all of you are on different paths. All of you have been through different challenges in life, etc. But most of you are going to have a very thick shell surrounding your heart. What does the shell do? It's a protective shell. It protects you from feeling. It protects you from emotion. It protects you from being receptive to specifically the frequencies of the emotional spectrum. Humanity is actually really good at receiving frequencies in the mental area, right? There is no protective shell around your brain. If I'm being honest, there is a protective shell around your hearts. We can talk about why that is, but like the fact remains the same. Humanity's hearts are closed down. There is this protective shell. So essentially, you're not coursing through emotions. You're not experiencing the state of flow that you're meant to. And if you did, we would arguably not be seeing the level of heart disease that we're seeing right now. So the water cannot go in, and the water cannot go out. And of course, over time, what that does, right, is it creates a whole slew of imbalances in your physical body. Because if the energy doesn't move properly over time, like, okay, let's say you come into a body and your heart is already closed up usually, right? So you come into a body, your energetic heart is closed up. There is a protective shell around it. We usually inherit our hearts from our mothers. That sounded terrible, but usually a big chunk of the energy of your heart and how your heart looks, you're going to get from your mother. So essentially you borrow your masculine chakras from your dad and you borrow your feminine chakras from your mom. Now, of course, there's the energy of your higher self that also participates, but largely, if your mom had a very open heart, you're going to have a very open heart. Either way, you guys, very few women, only about 10% of women on planet Earth right now have an open heart. So what are the odds, right, that your mom had an open heart? About 1 in 10 are the odds, right? 10%. Not terrible, but also not all that high, meaning 90% of the human population was born of a mother whose heart was different levels of closed down. So one thing we have to understand is as humanity, we haven't been dealt a winning hand when it comes to heart. So in other words, the odds are already not in our favor. As far as what are the odds that we're going to develop heart disease, the odds are not in our favor. The likelihood of this happening is quite high. Because if you come into a closed up heart, unless you do your personal work, unless you open up your heart to all of these emotions, it's going to be the likelihood of you developing some form of heart disease, especially the older you get. That likelihood is really, really high, right? So that's that. You start already not in a very good spot. Now, why do we need these protective shells in the first place? Because feeling, I'm going to use human language here. You guys think feeling sucks. Pardon my French. But if I were to read the vibration of humanity around like your opinion about feeling, you're like, oh, that's terrible. I don't want to have the feels, especially the negative ones. So you're like, okay, like maybe I'll take the positive emotions. Like I like joy. I like love. Well, mostly being loved. Most humans like being loved and not necessarily loving. Loving kind of like, okay, like I couldn't help it. I fell in love with this person. So there's a lot more emphasis on being loved. Being loved actually has a lot more value somehow than being loving, right? So that's another interesting shadow that's creeping up in the collective over here. But the negative emotions, you guys have an aversion to negative emotions. As a society, you're like, okay, don't want to deal with this. No, let somebody else deal with it. So you hate the negative emotions so much that you would literally do anything to try to avoid experiencing a negative emotion, especially a negative emotion of big, large magnitude. You'd rather not deal with this. You'd rather not go there. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. There are people that are empaths. There are people that are sensitive. And enough of you watching this episode are in the empath bucket. And still, I think that even you would find that there are certain things to take out of this episode for you personally, because empaths actually still have heart disease. And that is the weird part. If only the people whose hearts were closed down were experiencing heart disease, I would understand. And you would understand. You'd be like, okay, like open the heart, like done. Why do empaths have heart disease? Some of the people that I'm scanning, as I'm scanning the collective, some of the people that feel the most for humanity, that, wear their heart in their sleeves, some of these people develop heart disease. And then you may ask me like, okay, Maria, what's up with those people? And I will tell you that just the fact that you have your heart open as an empath doesn't mean that you have passed all the lessons and integrated all the energies and removed all of the distortions from your heart. So step one of healing the heart is opening it. That is just like literally the bare minimum, you guys. And most of humanity is not even there. Secondarily, once you open the heart, it's like the murky waters, like the dark waters. Like it's not the perfect emerald stream of waters that is like clean, pristine, and perfect. Quite on the contrary, it's like, whoa, danger zone. And that is where a massive, massive heart detox is needed. Okay, let's maybe go back to why humanity develops. What are some of the other symptoms of heart disease? Because I think that the last thing I want is for this episode to be too general. I don't think it's going to serve humanity if I just keep repeating myself saying, hey, just open your heart. That is not helpful. So the heart is a very complex organ. When it is healthy, it is meant to be able to take massive amounts of emotion and process large amounts of emotion per millisecond, so to say, and kind of like move on, right? So like the heart takes in the emotion and releases it. So essentially, the heart would allow you to eliminate the negative emotion. Now, of course, if your heart is closed down, the elimination process of the negative emotion doesn't happen. And that is how that one part of your body can contribute to disease in a lot of other parts of your body, because stuck emotions, especially negative ones, right? Because usually the emotions that are stuck are negative, that are stashed all over your body are not helping anyone. These emotions are going to mess you up in more ways than one, because over time, and this is actually something that I spoke about in my episode called the internal trash can, if you guys are interested. If you're watching this on YouTube, maybe we're going to link put the link to that episode down below. Usually you have your own internal trash cans, like little places in your body where you stash your unwanted emotions, because those emotions did not go to the heart. And of course, you cannot go through to the heart, because if your heart is a walnut shell, nothing can get in and nothing can go out energetically. So of course, like your emotions cannot go there, right? So your body is not operating as intended. And that is, again, how you get a lot of the other different, aspects of disease, right? So Where I'm going with this is if your heart was indeed open, not only would humanity not experience heart disease, you wouldn't experience a lot of the other disease, a lot of the other chronic pains specifically, because a lot of the precursors to disease are emotional and unprocessed emotions, specifically for humanity right now, just because of how challenged we are as a species at processing stuck emotion at this moment in time. That is the lesson for humanity. Let's maybe look at the issues around heart disease for men, and then we're going to go to women because those are actually very different symptoms for men. Part of the issues, and of course, we're not going to, unfortunately, the constraints of this episode, I'm not going to be able to go symptom by symptom. So I'm going to have to skip ahead and overgeneralize here. A very common issue for men who develop heart conditions is their inability to communicate actually their feelings. So despite the fact that we think that communication dwells in the throat center, not in the heart, for men specifically, the inability to communicate how you feel is going to give you a heart condition. Either the inability or the unwillingness or the fear of communication, and I would almost call it like the fear of vulnerability, the fear of coming across vulnerable, the fear of being judged for how you feel, the fear of being judged for me not being strong enough and not holding it together. You know how it's totally not okay for men to cry? Somehow that's like a rule that society created it. And only maybe in certain instances, and oh my God, it's like we're not used to masculine tears as a society. How crazy is that? That it's almost like, okay, like women are feeble creatures, so okay, fine, they cry. No, tears is a natural process, actually. So usually your heart, that's how it's supposed to be. Your heart processes the emotions. If your heart cannot handle the incoming stream of emotions, your tears is the second point of call. They're supposed to help you get rid of that emotion quickly, right? Again, the water in your body works as that elimination. Your tears, your tear ducts. So men that come into this world with a closed up heart, that have also been told it's not okay to cry, where do they go? If you have your number one way of eliminating a negative emotion, which is the heart, and you cannot do that because your heart is closed down, and your number two option is to cry, and that is not okay because that makes you not masculine or however else you were brought up, right? And by the way, if you're a guy watching this and you haven't been brought up in this way and you feel it's okay to cry, more power to you. Honestly, you're awesome. Keep going. It's just not the reality for a lot of men out there. There's so much judgment that men feel and resentment actually towards their own sensitivity. That level of resentment towards being sensitive is through the roof, you guys. It's pretty ridiculous, right? So you make yourself wrong for feeling the feels. You make yourself wrong for wanting to express it. So the natural inclination for men is to hold as much within as you possibly can. That is why even in relationships, and I know it's at this point, it's memes and, a topic for stand-up comedy, that women in relationships always want to talk about relationships and discuss problems. And men are like, oh my God, just leave me alone, lady. How much more are we going to talk about feels? Don't want to do that, right? It's a meme. It's a funny thing. It's not because, obviously women have an easier time expressing specifically the feelings, right? An innate need in order to be able to do that. And ironically, women, because they're also more okay with crying, are the ones that need to express their feelings less in some degree because if anything, they can just cry it out. In fact, I would argue that men need to learn to express their feelings a lot more than women. And we're seeing the absolute reverse, right? We're seeing this reluctance in men to communicate, especially around the things that are hurtful. Around the things that make them vulnerable, show their softer side, right? Acknowledging that you have a softer side. For instance, if you're a guy, right, and your partner did something that hurt you, you're not necessarily very forthcoming. Men are actually 3 to 6 times more likely to just suffer through being, I guess, not abused necessarily, but if somebody hurt your feelings, you're going to be 3 to 6 times less likely to call them out on it and be like, hey, whatever you said or did over here really hurt me. Or however you were acting towards me did not sit well with me. Men just don't like going there. Because of that, they suffer in silence. What do you guys think what do you think happens when you suffer in silence? Because as much as I say that your hearts are closed down and all of that good stuff, you're still experiencing emotions. Emotions are real, right? We all agree. Like you still experience sadness, you still experience pain, heart pain, you still experience love. You experience these things to some degree, right? Like maybe not to the extent that you could possibly based on your fullest potential, but you're experiencing these emotions. So what happens when you are holding on to an emotion that you cannot communicate? There is this constant heaviness in your heart. It's energetically, it looks like somebody is like throwing stones in the heart, and all of these stones and heaviness is just gathering in the bottom of the heart. And you are just, carrying on to that baggage. This heaviness that you have in your heart, you guys, hearts, it's so heavy you don't even notice it. It is all these baggage of all the unprocessed things, but most importantly, the uncommunicated things. All the things you didn't want to admit to having felt, whether to yourself, by the way, or to others. And that is another part that is kind of interesting with men. When women don't communicate something, they very often know exactly what they haven't communicated, if that makes sense, right? Like if they're like, something is on their heart and they're like, okay, well, I know I'm feeling this way, but it is my conscious decision to not communicate that. So they're holding it to themselves and they're like, I know exactly what I'm not saying. For a man, it's like half of the time you don't even know what you're feeling yourself. You're like, it's kind of heavy. I don't know. Don't feel good about it. I don't know. Maybe I should just have a beer and watch some, game on TV. It's complete like you're completely out of touch is what I'm saying, right? So if you were even asked to talk about your emotions, like if your significant other asked you like, okay, so how, what are you thinking? Like, what are you feeling in this situation? You may not even be able to answer because you're so disconnected from that feeling part of yourself that part of it is not even uncommunicated, like the communication issue and the fact that something is uncommunicated, but it's so unfelt that you can't even tell what is that vibration, what is that thing that needs to be expressed. And I will tell you, if that is your case, then baby steps. Start at least being honest with yourself about what you're feeling before you can get honest with anybody else. If you're a guy watching this, start getting extreme clarity with yourself, or maybe even start a journal. I know having a journal doesn't sound like a masculine thing to do, but we're talking about 14 to 16% of humanity dying of heart disease every year. That's a lot. So it is a problem. We're going to have to want to address it probably, right? And maybe journaling is going to save your life. I'm not kidding. It sounds funny, but it may just be the one thing that saves your life eventually. Enables you to live an additional 20, 30 years. Get clear with what you're feeling, especially if it's a negative feeling. Get clear and literally have a journal, like the journal of your feelings. Because first is acknowledging things that they happen. Doesn't make you a bad guy, doesn't make you not masculine or anything, doesn't make you a bad person. Feeling things makes you human. Feeling a lot of things makes you very human. Being able to express them builds bridges and connections with others. Being vulnerable to your partner actually enhances your relationship. It makes it stronger. You're going to feel truly held in a relationship, truly understood, truly contained in a relationship, if you are going to be able to be real with your partner instead of glossing over and just being all cool all the time or all good all the time. That is what's giving you disease. That is what's giving you heart problems. So unexpressed feelings and unacknowledged feelings, when you cannot even put the name to that emotion, start naming those things. Like, yes, you may have a hard time initially, but start naming these things. Oh, I think this is sadness. Oh, I think I'm nostalgic. Oh, I think I'm feeling, I don't know, whatever that emotion is, right? Like start naming them. And then the next step there is going to be communicating. First, communicate to your journal, and then down the road, communicate to your partner or even to your friends. So starting to get it out, because it's almost like your hearts are, guys, like corks in like champagne bottles, they use the cork. Like you need to uncork yourself. So these things like that flow can be established because there is a lot that's sitting in your vessel. There's a lot that's sitting in your body. There's so much stuck inside of you. It's like toxicity. It's emotional toxicity inside, right? Like things that should come out are not coming out of you. They're just sitting there collecting dust. And there's only so much you can put inside of your vessel until your vessel is like, okay, I throw in the towel, I quit, this is ridiculous. I cannot handle. This is overload. No more, no more. Another thing, right? Some of you may think that alcohol actually solves your issue, right? I'm like, I'll just drink a beer or I'll just have a cocktail or whatever. Alcohol doesn't serve your emotional issues. It's a form of escapism. So the only thing is, right, with emotions and feelings, they're fleeting. It's a fleeting energy. It's the energy of water. Water is inconstant. I don't know if you guys have been, if you've ever, I'm sure enough of you have noticed like the ocean, you can't contain it. Like the waves, it's always different. The ocean is always different every day. It's a very different ocean. Emotions are actually completely unstable and they come in the moment for you. The emotion is going to be with you today. Usually, even a negative emotion, most likely it's not going to, if you are processing it properly, the emotion is not going to stay with you for longer than 30 to 45 minutes. If you are not resisting it. If you are resisting the emotion, it can stay with you for like 60 lifetimes. Seriously. So let's say you were experiencing something crazy negative. If you allow yourself to feel it, something that is that crazy negative could be out of your system, or like a large chunk of it could be out of your system within an hour. But if you resist it, it persists. It can be with you like literally till the cows come home and even longer. Okay, so a lot of heaviness and detox, right? Like allow yourself to let those emotions go, allow yourself to communicate, allow yourself to be vulnerable. Literally rewrite your belief system that you are supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be the protector. You're supposed to always have your stuff together, your act together. You're supposed to be the strong one. You're supposed to be, and it's not masculine to be vulnerable. I'll tell you, actually, no. There is a way to maintain your masculinity. There is a way to hold space for others in your masculinity and be vulnerable at the same time and be warm at the same time and allow yourself to feel the feels at the same time. And sorry, really quickly before I forget, where I was going with the alcohol example. When an emotion hits you, it hits you right now. If you choose to drink, let's say after a hard day's work or like to not feel the feels, you choose to drink. And by the way, it's such like a common thing. Like when people break up, men go and usually get drunk if they cared about the relationship. That's just like a thing. Not that women don't, but women use other things. Usually it's like, emotional eating like chocolates and stuff, but men usually get drunk. And the thing is, if you're experiencing a temporary emotion, maybe in this case, breakup is not a good example because breakups usually hurt for sometimes months, right? If not years, depending on the breakup. But if you're experiencing a particular emotion and you consume alcohol, essentially, when the emotion hits you, there is like a period of 2 hours roughly that is going to determine how you handle that emotion. So if the emotion is going to get processed, it's going to get processed within 2 hours. If the emotion is going to get resisted, it's going to be resisted by the end of that day. So like whatever unprocessed emotions that you have for the day, you go to bed, that's it. Like essentially, if you haven't eliminated it from your system or if you haven't started the process of elimination, it's going to be stuck in you. And alcohol actually, once you consume alcohol, it prevents the emotions from getting out of your body and they just get stuck. Now, you don't feel it in the morning because frankly, you have hangover probably and better other things to worry about because that emotion is no longer pressing. And that's the thing, like when emotion enters your body or like when a particular feeling does, it raises the alarm bells, but only for a particular amount of time. And then that energy feels native to you. So you either already eliminate it or your body just makes a decision, okay, like we can't process this, we're going to resist this. So let's just send it into a kidney or like a liver or like the intestines or whatever. And so from your perspective, you feel like you're done. But in fact, what you have done is actually deposit that emotion inside of your body. So that is a very, very common thing for men. What other things? There are actually a lot in men as well. One of the things that may give you an issue around your heart disease for men specifically is your relationship with your mom. Go figure. But there's like a pretty big correlation there with men, boys that didn't feel like they didn't have a close connection with their mother. Specifically when they either felt judged by her or they felt like they couldn't really tell her the truth or they were trying to hide something. Like, whatever that was, they're like, oh, I can't tell my mom this. She's like, wow, she's not going to get it. Whatever that is, like, ooh, I was smoking after school. My mom is never going to get it. I'm not saying this is a good example, but like whatever your flavor of my mom just didn't fully understand me or I didn't feel like fully held by my mother, that is a heartache, actually, you guys. Like that is your first heartbreak. Like if your mom as a boy doesn't love you, that is your first heartbreak. And that goes straight into your heart, straight into your heart. Essentially, every type of heartbreak you experience as a human contributes to potentially getting heart disease. I kid you not. Essentially, if etherically or energetically you have a broken heart, if that broken heart remains unfixed or unhealed for a long period of time, you may develop physical symptoms of a broken heart. So heart disease, different forms of it. So there are other ways that your heart can be broken. And so for men, think of what are some of the other ways. Like the relationship with your mom usually breaks your heart. If you have had an unrequited love that was very, very strong, that would usually do it. But for men, it's also divorce, actually. So if, and especially that's when women file for divorce. Or like your significant other file for divorce, if whoever your significant other is as a guy, right? If you're not the one initiating the divorce, very often it comes across to you as a betrayal. And because of that, men actually develop a lot of heart conditions post-divorce. Like they really, really suffer. I think there's like this general sentiment that men cannot stay monogamous. And actually, if you saw the amount of heart disease that is caused by women divorcing men, I think you'd have a whole appreciation for the fact that no, actually some men are extremely loyal. It's like when you find the one and, there's men build their sense of self-identity and self-worth so much based on the woman that is with them. And pardon that I'm using genders. I'm completely aware that, some men choose to not be with women. That's completely fine. Then let me rephrase it by saying that men build their sense of self-worth very much based on the partner that they're with, if that is easier, right? If they have a partner that they're proud of or a partner that they find a lot of merit with, it's like a sense of pride. And when that partner wants to break up with you, especially if there was like a long-term commitment, some men get like a crazy amount of heartache. So that's another issue. Okay, I worry this is going to get too long, so why don't we move on to women's heart issues. Oh, my dear ladies. Okay, you have all kinds of fears that are heart-related. Your specific one is the fear of being alone and dying alone. Right here gives you heart disease. Being alone, dying alone. The fear of worry for your children. Oh my gosh, ladies. You worry so much that you start manifesting all the crazy things in the life of your kid. Can you please stop? Can you please stop? Because I understand that you think that worrying is caring. And it's like how you want to show your love is sometimes like being overbearing or like, oh, I need to worry about my kid. Like, how are they going to be in kindergarten? How are they in school? I'm just worried about everything. This world is out to get them. You're manifesting that for your child. And then, of course, then you see physical proof that this world is dangerous, that this world is going to hurt them. But who manifested that? As a mother, you have an incredible energetic connection to your kid by default because that kid comes out of your womb. So you make no mistake. For the first 10 years of their life, a big chunk of what happens with them is actually your energetic field. You are the culprit. Now, you, of course, are also the little fairy wonderful thing, however we want to dub this. If everything is awesome in your kid's life, like it goes both ways, right? You really, really, really impact your child for the first 10 years of their life. And then, of course, down the road as well. But the first 10 years, you're like it. Like there's definitely not enough accountability or understanding in the women for that. So instead of worrying about your child, why don't we flip that frequency? Because the frequency of worry is actually one of the shadow aspects of love. You have love, you have compassion, then you have worry, which is like, it's the same frequency, only colored black, if you will. So allow yourself every time that you want to express your love through worry, express your love through gratitude for having a child. Like instead of being like, oh, I'm so worried that, where's my kid? Is late from school. I don't know. Did they get in trouble? Calling them or texting them like a crazy munchkin. Don't do that. Instead, be grateful. And I'm not saying don't check up on your kid. There are boundaries. Like there is everything with reason. But just be mindful of the fact that if your predominant frequency around you and your child is worry, not only are you going to manifest all kinds of accidents for your kid and all kinds of disease for your kid and all kinds of other really suboptimal circumstances. So you're hurting the one thing you love the most. You're hurting yourself because you're also developing heart disease for yourself. I mean, that's the worst of any world I can imagine. So you're hurting both parties because you are operating from the shadow perspective, essentially fear. You allow your fear to control your love. And that is, not a great outcome for anyone. So replace your worry with gratitude. Like, universe, I'm so grateful that I have this wonderful kid that I love so much. They're such a sunshine. Thank you. And that is how, that is the impulse that you should have when you reach out to your child, being grateful for them, but also allowing them to have a life. You don't own your child. You are a portal for your child to come into this time-space reality. They're not for you. They're not a toy, their own being. So allow yourself to be yourself. Allow them to be themselves. Let it go. Control is over here as well. That's another shadow aspect that's going to give you heart disease. Trying to control circumstances, people, etc. Trying to control the world. Usually women have the best intentions when they're trying to control things. Don't we all? Well, I'm really, again, stems from fear. All control issues stem from fear. Whatever your flavor of fear is. But trying to control your partner, trying to control your child, trying to control your parents, trying to control your boss, trying to control circumstances, trying to control the stock market. I mean, it's a failing game. It's a losing game. That's it. You can't. In fact, the whole point of coming into a soup of happening like planet Earth is to not control anything. Kind of. Because if you could control everything, like what's the point of like playing in the first place? It wouldn't be interesting. It wouldn't be interesting for you. You wouldn't want to do that. Other things that help, obviously heartache. Heartache is unfortunately or fortunately one of those things that gives heart disease for both genders, like different types of heartache. Only I would say that a lot of women also have self-esteem issues, even more so than men. And a lot of women are aware of the fact that they have self-esteem issues. And so enough of your heartache is actually going to be self-induced. So whereas with men, most of the heartache that men experience is somebody else breaking their heart, a good chunk of women are experiencing this very weird, seemingly, sensation of breaking their own hearts by believing that they're not enough, or by believing that they're so fundamentally flawed and that there's no way that they can get better. You break your own heart. Yes, sometimes and very often it is predicated upon how you were treated, the comments that you heard from your parents about like, okay, why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why are your grades so low? And like, why is this person good at this? And, why is this kid really good at singing or dancing or math and you are not, And women take this to heart. That's why there are so many more. Okay. Did you know that a perfectionist is a female disease? Did you know that there are a lot more true perfectionists in women than there are in men? Why do you think that is? Because women are holding on to this not enoughness, even more so than men, much more so. And they're trying to overcompensate by becoming perfectionists. Because honestly, they're like, okay, well, if I just try it 10 times harder, if I work 10 times harder, if I try to become 10 times smarter, 10 times more determined, then maybe one day I'll become worthy. The perfectionist complex, you guys, is a heart disease inducer. So if you describe yourself as a perfectionist, freaking watch out for your heart. Seriously, you have to. Because it may manifest as something in your heart, like a heart problem, perfectionism. Because that is like rejecting yourself. Having like a need to be a perfectionist is a rejection of who you are right now. Who you are really. Because a perfectionist is a mask. A perfectionist is a coping mechanism. You are not born a perfectionist. You are made one. Because you think that you are inadequate as is. That is a biggest single act of self-betrayal. Feeling like you are not enough as you are. And that is over time going to manifest as heart disease. If you do it enough. If you don't work on healing your perfectionist. If you don't work on accepting all of your flaws. If you don't move beyond the fact that you being loved has nothing to do with you being good or you achieving certain things. Because love, the way that it was made by source, is unconditional. No conditions apply to true love, including self-love. True self-love is unconditional. It's not based on merit. It's not based on how many promotions you got. It's not based on GPA. None of that. Self-love is a birthright. Let me say that again. Self-love is your birthright. Who took that away from you? Nobody. You did. You are the only human being in existence. You are the only being, in fact, in existence that can take away your self-love. Nobody else can. 33% of women on planet Earth right now experience extreme lack of self-love. And I mean extreme lack. Like 10 out of 10 extreme lack. That's how sad it is. Yeah. Only 12% of men, by the way, experience that same degree of lack of self-love. Let's talk about high blood pressure, because that's a precursor. Usually they'll tell you, hey, like before you there are all of these like warning bells. Usually blood pressure is going to manifest itself fairly early in your life, or earlier than some of the other symptoms with heart disease. What's up with high blood pressure? There's not one reason why somebody would develop heart pressure. So I'll give you just a few like broad brush strokes of what this may be. High blood pressure is your organism's response to what you perceive as an unfavorable ecosystem. So it's like the fight or flight response. Do you know when you're under stress, there's like, I don't know, if there's a tiger, you either fight or you flight. So high blood pressure is a consistent flight response. So when your body is consistently like in the alert state and it's pumping blood like nobody's business, but that thing doesn't go away. And it's like, obviously, or usually, people that have high blood pressure usually have consistently high blood pressure. That is because they're living in a constant state of alertness and stress and fear, which is, by the way, in some ways is self-induced. High blood pressure 9 out of 10 times is not built over one lifetime, but it comes from your past lives or is inherited through your lineage, one or the other. Heart disease, again, manifests through the lineage. So if there is heart disease history in your family, pay attention, even if there are no symptoms for you. If there is a history of high blood pressure in your family, pay attention because you're at risk. So again, there is something, essentially your body, high blood pressure is your body telling you, hey, our environment is unsafe. I don't trust this. This world, I don't trust it. These people, I don't trust them. I'm unsafe. I am alert. I want to get out of here. Something's got to change. I am completely uncomfortable. Please do something. That is what your high blood pressure is telling you. It's an SOS call. It's a 911. Your body's like, hey, this is bad. Are we going to do something about it? So what is this? What is this thing? I think the question that you should be asking yourself if you have high blood pressure is, why do I not trust the world around me? You may ask, what specifically don't I trust? Or who specifically don't I trust? And you may get a very clear answer. Some of you don't trust the government. Some of you don't trust the law enforcement. Some of you don't trust your families. Some of you don't trust your coworkers. Some of you just don't trust people in general, etc., etc., etc. And that is the root cause of your trauma. Meaning, your past life experiences, what you have, all the trauma that you have gathered up until this point, would essentially create all of these reasons. Why? Because all of these memories, they're subconscious. You're not consciously aware of the 10,001 way that you died in past lives, or you were betrayed in past lives, or you were mistreated, or you were jailed, or you were tortured, or you were, burned at the stake. Most of you don't have a conscious memory of all of these lifetimes. All you have is high blood pressure, which is a dead giveaway that things happened to you in the past that made you believe your environment is unsafe. Usually it's one to two things that are triggers for you. So finding a trigger for you is extremely important. That is going to require some soul searching, potentially some past life regression, with an intention of ask the universe to show you why you have trust issues with either the people of the planet Earth or planet Earth in specifically. Why, what happened? And then go into past life regression and see the patterns. I have made past life regression meditations in the past. So use that. Go and study. But you can also use journaling. You could use automatic writing. Automatic writing is, when you take out a piece of paper, you get into a very calm state, almost like a meditative state, like with your breaths and stuff, like you get out of the busy mind. And then you write down the question, and then you allow your hand to write down the answer. This is called automatic writing. It works for 70% of humanity. Not 100, but 70. Listen, you guys, 70 are good odds. I'll take that any day. And just don't judge as you're writing the answers down. What you need to understand is, what are you so not even afraid of, but who do you not trust? What is alerting you so much about your environment? What's your trigger? Who's to blame? Right? Who messed you up? Who is a threat? Or what is a threat? Once you realize that this one thing is a threat, then, awareness is actually already half the healing. Just becoming aware that something is your trigger. And also, especially if you remember a particular instance from a past life that trigger, when that trigger got formed, that is already, you're like halfway there towards healing. That is already amazing. And then secondarily, right, then you would have to get okay with that expression, right? There's, of that thing that you're afraid of. So essentially developing trust with that one thing that you do not trust is the way out. Easier said than done. How do you do that? Sometimes you're going to have to peel it off layer by layer, like petal by petal, because usually trust, if there is a break of trust, like for instance, I don't know, let's say that you have had so much trauma around your sister, or like anytime you have a sister in a past life, like you get major backstabbing or you just can't trust your sister because whatever, she slept with your husband. Again, this analogy is as good as any. And let's say your sister is a common presence in your life. Like you see her all the time, your blood pressure is high. You could develop high blood pressure just because your sister is in your life and you have a link from a past life where she was a particular way or acted to you in a particular way. And the moment you get a husband in this life, your body remembers that 3 lifetimes ago you had a sister that yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, your body's like alert, 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 SOS, like we're going to get hurt here. And your pressure goes up. So your body goes into flight mode. The moment you realize, how do you calm that system down? By receiving the signal. Your body is going to stop giving you high blood pressure if you receive the message. As simple as that. Because your body just needs to alert you to a constant threat in your surroundings. Once you realize that, oh, actually, my sister is a threat, not this particular sister, but like the concept of a sister that could potentially walk away with my husband, if you know what I mean. That already is enough of a threat. In fact, just having a sister, like if your sister is birthed and you don't even have a partner and you're like 5 years old, you're subconsciously going to be like, okay, well, I don't know. I'm starting to get worried about this little sister of mine. You are not going to know why, but there's, you're not going to like feel warm fuzzies about your sister. You're not going to want to cuddle her. You're not going to want to play with her. You're not going to want to do the sisterly things. You're going to be like, sister, mom, why you have to birth this one? So part of this is understanding that just because something was a past threat doesn't mean that it is a current threat. Just the fact that in this particular instance, you have a sister doesn't mean that she's going to betray you. However, unless you remove and untie that past karmic knot, you're going to attract that as a circumstance in your life because the world is a mirror and it is mirroring your own trauma, drama, and karma inside, or an energy distortion. So the one way for you to untie that knot is to understand that the past doesn't have to be a predictor of the future. That one is not the copy-paste of the other. And releasing and breaking those connections consciously. Forgiving the sister for what she did however many lifetimes ago. And developing that trust. Opening your heart, again, here, opening your heart to trusting someone or something or the world is always the medicine, is always the healing process. So allowing yourself to go there and become vulnerable, despite the fact that there may be pain associated with it. That is the beauty of the heart. The beauty of an open heart is it can take anything. It is so strong. It is so beautiful. It's so open. It can take anything, including the bitter pill, and still come out victorious on the other side. So developing trust is a very big mantra, is a very big North Star for anybody with high blood pressure. And also another part is trust yourself. 2 things, trust yourself and trust your universe. A lot of people who have high blood pressure don't trust themselves and don't trust the universe. So also look for betrayal, any kind of betrayal wounds, where you betrayed yourself or where you got betrayed by others. That is another thing that's going to give you heart palpitations and high blood pressure, is betrayal, the wounding of betrayal. Because it's feeling unsafe. Whether you were ostracized, it doesn't really matter, like backstabbed in past lives. That's going to these wounds are really deep. And the moment you get back into society, reincarnate, get back into the human family, like those get triggered like nobody's, business. Like they're right there with you. So trusting yourself and like, how can you betray yourself? That's another important thing, because I think that a lot of people are very familiar with the concept of, oh, they betrayed me. But how can you betray yourself? Actually, in more ways than one. Want to follow your heart, and your heart is telling you one thing. Let's say there's like a passion project or career, but you choose not to do that. And you choose to go and do a detestable job because you're trying to please somebody. That's self-betrayal. Or when you fall in love with somebody but you choose to marry into money, for instance, that's self-betrayal. That's betraying your heart. How do you think your heart feels? It feels completely bulldozed over, completely sidetracked, completely irrelevant and just small and unnecessary. So look into the wounds of self-betrayal. Like, where did you betray yourself? Where did you not act in accordance with your truth or your heart, as well as not trusting the universe? And the lack of trust with the universe, oh my God, like right there, you probably have shadow work from here until the cows come home, because there's so many ways that one can distrust the universe. But usually, like I said, there are 1 to 2 big triggers, and then there are like 1,000 small ones. And it's the 80-20 principle, like the Pareto law. Once you remove the 1 to 2 to 3 maybe big triggers, 80% of that issue is gone. So when you're working with high blood pressure, all you need to do is find big triggers. Like find the big messes, like find the big issues. And the little ones, don't worry about it. Because once you get rid of the big problem, once you get rid of the 80% of the aggressors or the perceived aggressors or the fears, the 20% are not going to matter. It's not going to cause, the 20% are not going to cause you high blood pressure. So cultivate trust with the universe, meaning, and that is a mental shift, right? That's a shift in the belief system. And that is how the belief system can help you heal the heart too. Start training your brain to believe that, and it's a choice, by the way. A belief system is a choice. It's an active choice that you make. And also persistence beats resistance again. Repetition really helps with mental constructs. Saying things like, the universe always has my back, as a mantra, so to say, as turning that into one of your core beliefs, could be extremely healing for your blood pressure if you believe it. But again, repetition is everything with mental constructs. Writing things down a few dozen times, if not 100 times, like all of these things, repetition is really helpful with changing mental constructs. I wanted to take, this is again, a big topic. I wanted to take some questions from the collective because this has already been too long, around heart disease, anything that you wanted to ask as long as it serves the collective. The question is, if I am experiencing acute issues in the heart space, what do I do? Is it too late for me to address it from the spiritual perspective if I'm already on medication? The answer is it's never too late to address it from the spiritual perspective. In fact, I strongly encourage you, if you are already on heart medications, also be on heart meditations. That's the Freudian slip, right? In other words, very often with the modern medicine, when they're treating you, they're treating the symptom, they're not treating the root cause. So even if you get by on whatever pills you're taking or whatever else you're on medically in this lifetime, meaning like you prolong your lifetime, next lifetime when you're rebirthed, unless you get to the core crux of the issue, unless you deal with the root cause, your symptoms are going to be back. So really, it's like a Band-Aid solution. Like medication is really a Band-Aid solution, you guys. Like you're eventually going to have to go to the root cause, and the root cause is always emotional for the heart. It is what it is, right? There's no other way. The health of your heart is like the barometer of your emotional state. There's no other way. And so I would say, yes, absolutely. What should you be doing if you're experiencing pretty big, nasty symptoms around a heart condition? That means your heart is experiencing high levels of toxicity with all these unprocessed emotions. The number one self-care tactic, the number one tactic, like to get your heart, essentially you need to do a heart detox. Like a heart detox is what you need if things are really, really bad. You need to start, because it's like, imagine trying to feed 10 people into a 4-seat car. It would be madness. Like you can probably do it, but it would be madness. And a toxic heart that is holding on to too much unprocessed emotion feels like a regular Toyota that is, a 4-seat, that is like, or a 5-seat, whatever, that is holding on to 10 or 20 people inside. It's like, whoa, jam-packed, man. Don't even want to go there. It's like scary looking a little bit. So you need to start uncorking things and removing these blocks. How do you do that? You do that through many ways, actually. There are many ways to do that. First, breath, the energy of your breath. Breathing exercises are incredible, you guys, to really quickly remove the toxicity from your heart. You may feel lightheaded, just a fair warning. But you would want to do deep breaths through your mouth, not your nose, audible, but literally with the intention, like sending the breath into your heart and imagining like the breath is clearing away all the darkness, because toxic hearts energetically look like black hearts because there's a lot of darkness in there. And so you would audibly inhale like this, And then you would imagine that all of that life force is gathering in your heart. And then you would audibly exhale like, like that, right? And I have to show you guys. May sound funny, but this is how you need to do it. And you want to do rounds of these breaths, rapid rounds, 30 breaths at a time. Then you take a 3-minute break. Then do another 30 breaths like that, and then take a 3-minute break. That is the first step, like breath exercises to release and relieve the toxicity in your heart. Second, telling you about the Our Sacred Universe podcast. If you have a heart condition, please do yourself a favor and go ahead and do every single meditation on the heart that I've ever recorded on the Our Sacred Universe podcast. There are like probably 10 or 12 of them. Enough of them are really, really short, like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe not 5 minutes. I don't make things that are 5 minutes, unfortunately. I apologize. Enough of them are longer than that. All of these things are going to be healing for your heart. Then you are going to have to start speaking your truth, because that is the way that you remove about your feelings though. So you're going to either have to journal about all the hurt that your heart is experiencing, all the emotions that you never admitted to yourself and others. You start writing literally like chapters upon chapters, entryways in your journal about betrayal, guilt, sadness, loneliness, all of these topics that are heart related, like heart disease, and just like talk about all the people that are causing, like, why are you feeling lonely? Like, let's talk about loneliness. Like, you just journal. Or like another thing that helps is like voice recordings. Just record yourself talking about your heart, like your feelings. Start with your parents. All the strong emotions that your parents cause you. Usually there is one parent. If you are experiencing a very strong heart condition, there's usually one parent that really strongly contributed to that. Very often a mother, not all the time. Remember how you borrow your energies of the heart from your mother? By the way, she borrowed it from her mother. So like, it's not like your mom was a bad guy or girl in this case. Unfortunately, she also came into a very, very tough situation. Her luck wasn't much better than yours. So forgive your mother. Understand that she's only human. She could only be as good as her ancestry allowed her to be. She could only be as good to you as she was to herself. So have compassion. If she wasn't the most loving thing on the face of planet Earth, have compassion. Because most likely she didn't get that from her mom either. Understand that she had so much trauma that she couldn't even acknowledge to you. And she may have been oh so broken and you didn't even know it in so many ways. So address your issues with your parents. That is going to help detox. And then work through every single major relationship in your life. Like literally write a story about every single major relationship, because there's probably been heartache there. So detox through that. And then heart meditations always, like I said. That's where I would start dealing with the issues of the heart. Okay, I will take another question from the collective as long as it serves the collective. The question is, I have been experiencing high blood pressure for many years now, but I cannot pinpoint the issue. What is the best way of going about finding why I have high blood pressure? I mean, I've kind of already somewhat answered, but let me try to clarify. Explore your fears. High blood pressure is always intrinsically connected to the issues of trust and fears. So most likely, your high blood pressure is, in this particular instance, very often high blood pressure is a disturbance, not necessarily in the heart center, although that's also the case, but in the root. So go to your root chakra space and explore every single fear that you have. Like write down your list of fears, and then you know how to use the pendulum. Or if you don't, I'm pretty sure there are other channels on YouTube and other podcasts that can quickly teach you how to use the pendulum. So you write down all of your fears. And then you ask the pendulum to show you what is the one fear from this list. Like point, pendulum, can you point me to the one fear from this list that is causing my high blood pressure? And then the pendulum is going to show you what the answer is. Like the fear of being broke, for instance, or becoming homeless. And some of these things are not going to make sense to you in whatsoever. Like becoming homeless may not be in the cards for you if you are a top-level executive at a law firm or somewhere. It'll be like, there's no way I'm going to become homeless with a Harvard degree. But you may still be in that boat. That's the ironic part about fears. They're completely irrational. They may be giving you high blood pressure, and at face value, it's completely irrational, but you may have history. And so you work with that fear. You work with that. And understanding your root chakra, by the way, I made an episode about the root chakra not too long ago. So go and listen to that, because how you process your fears, how you deal with your fears is extremely important. That could be a path to healing your high blood pressure. The next question. The question is, how can I help a loved one who is going through or experiencing heart conditions, or a heart condition, but they're not spiritual and I cannot share this video with them. This is a tough one. This is a free will-based universe. If you have a loved one that is not open to spiritual ways of solving issues, then that's not their path. And we should respect their choice. I hate to say this. You cannot force somebody into healing. Healing is an act of free will. A soul can always choose to heal itself. A soul can also choose to go through an experience where they don't heal themselves for whatever reason. So unfortunately, as sad to you in the moment as it may seem, maybe not healing is the best thing that can happen to your loved one in the long term. So please don't force your loved ones into your way of living, no matter what that is. You can invite them, you can inspire them, but you cannot really force them into anything. So technically speaking, right, if they're a loved one, could you send them a link to a video if you really mean well? Yes. But trying to force them or like somehow like go behind their back and like figure out ways of how like to manipulate them to try to want to choose a spiritual path, it's never going to work. The body has the resources to heal itself of anything. Heart disease is actually easy for the body that wants, like that made a decision, the body and the soul. The body and the soul that are in alignment that we need to heal ourselves from this disease right now, no matter how chronic, no matter if it's stage 4 cancer, doesn't really matter. If there is alignment, that person is going to heal. So don't try to save people whose free will is to experience this condition. Because anybody going through a heart disease issue right now, that is their process. That is their journey of opening up their own hearts. And they may be at the very beginning of that journey, at the very middle of that journey, at the very end of that journey, but that journey is their own. So you can be that light and you can be that inspiration, but you can never be a force that like is trying to coerce them into something. That is such bad karma, you guys, and it's not worth it for anybody. I just wanted to put it out there. So if you cannot share this video, maybe that person doesn't need this video. It's as simple as that. Alrighty, my darlings, I'm sending you so much love. You have beautiful hearts. 100% of you have the capacity to open up your hearts. 100% of you have the capacity to keep growing that center of your body so it can process so much emotion for you that you would never have to deal with any kind of symptomology around the heart space. You have the capacity to hold the love of the entire universe in your great hearts because your hearts are infinite. Your hearts are your pathways to infinity, your doorway into source consciousness. You are an infinite being. Don't ever sell yourself short. Thank you for sticking around. By the way, one last thing. If you're watching this on YouTube and you would like for me to talk about any other physical ailments, physical symptomology, whether that is a particular disease or organ or chronic condition, please drop me a note in the comments because I intend to make more videos about physical conditions and I am open to what the topics are going to be. I'm sending you a big virtual hug and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.